Hello, and welcome to Roasting the World, where we talk about today's cultural issues with an adversarial perspective. I want to introduce our guest,
I'm Chris Robinson.
and I'm Keenan Robinson. I'm our host. And today's issue to be roasted is policing and authority. In this particular topic is very touchy for most people, especially people of color, especially with the state of what's happening in the United States. I personally have had some run-ins with authorities where I wasn't necessarily doing anything wrong, but they had authority, so they picked me up because they were raiding a house that I was outside of to see a girl. Picked me up, slammed me on the ground. Each officer, and there's about 10 or 15, took their boots and walked on my back and went into the authority and kept me on the ground in a bowl of dog water. I've had instances where I was riding down the street, police put me over and said I fit the description. I was pulled over constantly when I had, my hair out in an afro, which is natural, a natural form of expression for people of color with their hair. So I've had a lot of juvenile experiences, but none since I've become an adult. So can you speak to what's happening? What do we need to do to change this? I'll talk about self-policing, changing the laws, starting, back in the day we had the Black Panther Party, which self-policed the neighborhood and things like that. And, just speak to your knowledge base about what's happening once you're incarcerated, once you're out of there, jobs, all of that kind of stuff.
So for one thing, it's kind of like what you just said just now about a lot of this stuff happened when you're a juvenile, and not as much as you are when you're an adult. So what that tells me is that you become more wise. You know how to move a little bit different. You figured out what the system is doing and what their goals are. Because that's at the end of the day, these police officers, not only do they have a job, but as you can see if you watch the news, they have an agenda. So in this agenda, you have to know, and I've been around, different states, different cities, doing different things, and the agendas change. So one key to it is knowing what your police agenda is in your area, because they all are not the same. So you want to just know and be well the law. That's the first thing to do. Is we need to be, as a community, we need to know the law. We need to know the law at the youngest age possible. So that way, as we just won't experience as much as these problems in our community, and we'll know how to get around some of these obstacles that's put in the way, in the form of us, in front of us. So, you want to know the law, and you just want to pay attention to how you move. You want to pay attention to these police officers, because one area specifically, like if you have a drug problem, they might be heavy on catching drug dealers and not even murderers. Murderers, it's a lot. I went to a city, and just listening to the people, they told me that they don't care about catching robbers or murderers and none of that. But if you catch a drug charge, you gonna get life in prison behind some drugs. And they not doing nothing to somebody who just killed somebody. So once you see that that's the thing, for one, you might want to quit selling drugs in that area, for one. Right. So, but a lot of times what we see in our community is that it's already some form of traps and things set into place where that's probably your only way out, or they want you to think that's your only way out. So for us as a community, we need to first educate our kids on what we spoke about in one of our other segments of investing and stuff, because a lot of these problems come from our community being broke or being behind in life, and that's where all these crimes stem from. These crimes are just our community crying out for help and not knowing, where to really go. So, and that's me. When I was a youth, a lot of times I didn't know where to turn to for certain things. So I just took it out on anybody and on the rest of the world. So that's how we come up with these sayings of anybody can get it and all these other crazy sayings that really, really, like I said, is juvenile talk. So once you are aware of investment and how to make money and stuff, you won't have time to rob nobody. You won't even have the time to involve yourself in a lot of the things that's put in place for us, and these traps that's put in place for us. So
I like what you said about what's happening is a symptom of a bigger problem. And I've noticed, because I'm in the educational system, that we have made a big push towards social and emotional learning. Also made a big push in finding the root cause of the problems and solving the roots. So if you have a kid acting out, you don't just suspend that kid from school. You talk to that child and you talk to his parents and you figure out what's going on. That kid might be having a lot of home problems. Somebody might have got, hurt or locked up in front of them. Maybe experiencing some type of ACEs or adverse childhood experiences that are causing them to act out. And it is a cry for help. So with that being said, what is the solution to the cry for help? Because, okay, yes, we got cries for help. What are we doing to help those cries? And I heard you say investment. Now, that's a financial investment, but you could take that same kid and put him in a different position. But if he already has experienced those adverse childhood things, it's going to follow behind him. So what I'm really kind of getting at is, how do we catch it early enough on to inform that child of the way that he needs to act to have a good pathway out of those situations when the community is poor, one. Two, they're boxed in by police. So there's more of a microscope on you. So in a different community of a different ethnicity, I may be a kid that's able to go out and steal a car, or play ding dong ditch and push somebody's button and run, or smoke a cigarette underage and maybe not get the same consequences. I can go sell CDs outside of a place, or some loose cigarettes, and maybe not get choked out. But because there's a microscope on the poor neighborhoods, because they see it as having more crime, then the consequences are fatal. The consequences are faster. You don't get a chance to make those mistakes even as a kid, and then you go into the system. Whereas another community, they don't have those same type of things happening, but they have the same amount of crime. So why is it that the police are centralized in this area when the other areas have the same amount of crime or worse than the area they're policing? And then there's that system where that prison to pipe, a school, a prison pipeline thing, where those kids are being groomed to go to prison from getting suspended, ISS, all types of other punitive things that is happening to them. And so when they get into the system, they're used to having that authority over them, and you can't do this, you can't do this, this when you get up, this when you don't do that, versus being able to really expand upon their real treasures that they have within.
For one, I think a lot of it has to do with, like I said, for one, you have to pay attention to the police agenda that's in your community. Right. Pay attention to what they're seeking. Are they seeking people of color? Are they seeking gang members? Are they seeking killers? And things of this nature. So you don't even just fall into one of those categories. So right. The other thing I would like to say is, it's going to start with leaders in our community. Mm-hmm. Who are these leaders that's in our community? Are these leaders the drug dealers? Are these leaders the gangsters? Are these right. leaders actual investors? So in our community, that's probably one of our number one problems is all of our leaders have not even educated themselves properly on teaching the youth or even escaping these certain cycles. So if you allow yourself to be put in these high crime areas and you're comfortable with this, a lot of the times it goes back to the adults. If the adults are looking for easy way outs and they're being lazy and they want to keep staying in these government assisted homes just because the rent is $20, then that's a problem, because you're not trying to elevate yourself, nor are you trying to get your kids out of these type of predicaments. So in these type of predicaments, they kind of let you know that it's not real leaders there. It's in a gang infested area, so you want to escape these areas for one, just so you don't be a part of that statistic. So a lot of times in our community, what I see is that we allow them to push us out through the projects, and we see it here in Nashville a lot. They done moved big houses right beside the projects and stuff now, which means they kind of even pushing you farther into this magnifying glass. So as a community, it should be our goal to escape that magnifying glass as a whole. We don't even want to be the person that's in the position that's in this magnifying glass. You don't even want to be the person that's about to undergo these different police brutalities, all because you in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like at a young age, I was taught a lot about being at the wrong place at the wrong time. You hear that a lot. Like everybody should hear that a lot in their life. Mm-hmm. And it probably won't dawn on you until you get real wise that what that truly means. So a lot of the times, and once you figure out what that means, then you would look out for the youth, because you know that they are in the wrong place at the wrong time just by being in the projects. Like, again, I don't have anything against the projects, but that comes from being, I feel like, being in the lazy part of the community. Like, those people can escape that by actually putting in real effort and real work ethic to escape that, instead of just chilling in the projects thinking you cool every day because you in the projects.
And I mean, I kind of agree and disagree.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're forced into those situations. Sometimes people have mental health issues. Sometimes you're there because you're trying to better yourself. I know this particular young lady. She lived in the hood and stacked her money up and went ahead and bought a house. And that's the goal. But while you're there, you're still underneath of that microscope.
And that's good that you said that. That's the key. Be aware. As long as you're aware, then you can escape anything. Like, I could be aware of what you're doing. Like, if you are choosing this based off of financial, help you to financially evolve, then utilize it for that. Right. Don't get caught up in the trap.
Get comfortable.
Yes, that's what I mean by it. Don't be lazy.
So let's kind of shift gears a little bit to self-policing. Now, you know about the Black Panther Party in the 60s and 70s and, how that was dismantled by the government and all of that kind of stuff. So what do we do now to kind of self-police a little bit more? Because there was a big push about defunding the police and those type of things. But we need police for certain things. I don't think that police need to come gun blazing, but I do believe that there's a time and place, just like the fire department and the ambulance. We need them to show up, but there has to be some other type of community accountability where we are able to handle some things within ourselves because we're able to de-escalate those situations, and that takes training. There's some stuff that happens that's a mental health issue, and everybody knows that this particular person may have a mental health issue. When the police come, they shooting. When we come, we may have to restrain this person some kind of way, or the mama might have to come give the the medicine, or whatever needs to happen. But it may cause less death, and we're about saving lives, especially in these type of communities that have been so marginalized. And then the second part of that is valuing education a little bit more, because when you ask certain kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're either basketball player, football player, rapper, things like that. You don't hear traditional things such as I want to be a a doctor, a teacher, an engineer of some sort. I want to design hats. Whatever it is. We don't hear a lot of that in the especially in the elementary, middle school setting. And as they get older in the high school setting, students are basically saying, "I don't know. I don't know what I want to do. I'm tired of school. I don't want to go to college. So I'm just going to be good with whatever happens after I graduate and going to work at McDonald's or whatever in a marginalized job that is not a high-paying job, and which is going to get them back in that same cycle and generationally not having wealth."
To me, I think that comes from the actual lack of these leaders in that community. The reason we don't hear kids say they want to be lawyers and doctors and honest living people is because the lack of that's actually in that community.
Doing those things.
Exactly.
But you just said when you get it, you get out. So then they're not going to see those type of people in those communities unless they take a specific trip to those places and say, hey, and bring something back to the community or go into their school or something, because they don't live around there. They don't see people that are doing these type of jobs because they're unavailable.
Exactly. So that's what I mean by like you can't allow. Some of these kids are saying this based off what they see on entertainment. Like if you allow your kids to even watch too much TV, then that means they getting taught by the TV. They not getting taught by actual figures that's in their community. So when you watch TV a lot, of course you're gonna be raised by Lil Durk. You're gonna be raised by LeBron James. Like that's all you gonna see. You don't have real figures in that community that's showing them, that this is a real person and I'm doing real things in real life, and I don't even have to be on TV to do it. So a lot of the times it just comes from, like I said, just what these kids truly see. That's how they able to make their decisions and things of that nature. And like I said, it just comes from it comes from an adult, like making adults decisions wherever you are. If you are in the project, like I said, be aware that you're in the projects. Be aware that you are still a doctor, you are still a lawyer, and you still have goals. But like I said, a lot of the times we are sideswiped and caught up into. It's a lot of people in the projects probably want to be doctors, but they caught a drug case when they was 15. And it's like those are the kind of things that, that hinder us is, make a sound decision. Keep these youth really away from these drugs and these gang members. And that goes back to what I said. If you don't want your child to be living this lifestyle, try to escape, or don't even have a child yet until you have escaped that predicament. Okay. So that's a lot of ways how it goes. So a lot of the times you just got to pay attention to what's going on around you, and what type of decisions are you making as a parent or as a future parent, and to not end up in that position or have your kids end up in that position. Because again, like I said, these police have another agenda. It could be hidden or it could be on the surface. So you just got to know these certain agendas, and like we said, don't move as a juvenile, move as your adult, more wiser self. And that's a lot of the ways how we can escape these issues.
Now, do you think that that's putting too much pressure on our youth to be adults or grown earlier than most other kids have to be? And I'm saying that from experience, where I had to be the man of the house because my father wasn't there. Mom was, on drugs and different things like that. So I had to make sure my siblings ate and different things like that. So
I wouldn't say so myself, just because when you go to these other private schools where they actually paying for their education, you will see that it's 8 years old, 9 years old, know about more credit things than me, know about more investment than me, know about 401ks and things of that nature. So I wouldn't necessarily say that, as opposed to, because these kids, they gon'
They're gonna
if you
learn.
listen to like I said, if your kid watches YouTube a lot, he knows a whole little Dirk song. He knows a whole little Wayne song. So he's picking up something.
But it's about what they're picking up.
Exactly. It's
All
about
right.
what are they picking up. You can as easy as he picked up these songs, he could pick up and learn about the Bible, or he can learn about investment. You know, it's all about what are you giving these kids to soak up. That's what it's about.
Absolutely. And the people that they're actually looking up to, if they're the wrong people, they're going to be giving them the wrong information and leading them towards a pathway of destruction or life.
Exactly.
Depends on, who they're listening to.
Exactly. Like you said, how we came up. When we came up, how old was you when you first learned how to shoot dice?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, how old was you when you first knew how to sell a drug? It's like, or when you knew they was even selling drugs around you.
Right.
These sort of things don't go on in other communities because it's not around them. So instead of picking up dice, they are learning about a credit card. They spending their mama credit card at 13 and 12 and 15 before they already have their own credit card. So those are the sort of things that we need to do in our community and to escape these certain cycles. Give your kids a credit card instead of giving them some money to go shoot dice and all this. Let them know how to use this, what it's for, how do you utilize it. I see a lot of times it's plenty of fathers. If you just look on YouTube and it's a lot of stuff that goes viral. It should go more viral than it does, but I see 8-year-olds learning how to, telling me what credit is. Or I seen another father even teaching his child how to shoot guns. We don't want to raise violence, but they making their child aware of how to actually use the gun. That way that way you can even eliminate accidental shootings. Kids shooting their sisters, playing with a gun that was in the house, all because they didn't know how to use it. They didn't know the safety issues that surround it. So it's all about teaching these kids, at a young age what works proper. And you can take an hour or two out their day to teach them this, and then let them go back to being a child. Send them on back to the water park.
Right.
Let them do their thing. But you got to take the time to also tell them, what's really, really going on in the world.
So as we come to a close, as you know, we do roast or toast. Roast is if something that you want to burn down, and toast is something that you want to push to our community that we need to do better in. So in the area of policing and authority, and ways to curb some of the statistics, do you roast or toast what we've discussed and what we're pushing out to the community?
Well, let me see. So I want to roast just the decisions of some of these police officers in these departments, because like I said, some of these agendas, even though we give them solutions and things of that nature to what we feel like will be a solution to the problem, a lot of it still comes from agendas. Like I said, I've seen something not too long ago, or I actually seen a few videos where people are doing secret recordings in police meetings, and they are specifically saying, we are going out here to get these ends, or we're going to lock up all these black people. Like, that's their end goal. So I want to roast that, because I'm not a fan of that. But at the same time, we need to still do what we can do as leaders of this community for our kids and in the youth's future.
Right. All right. So, well, until next time, stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And we thank you, and we want to thank you for being a special guest. And, stay ready so you don't got to get ready. And we'll see you next time for another exciting episode of Roasting the World.
Peace.